Thank you all for turning up to the most boring database in everybody's collection. I think it's in everybody's collection. Is anybody here who does not have a contacts database? Good. So we all know what we're talking about. Contacts, I thought, after Chris's talk in Berlin last summer, could be more than the most boring database in the world. And so I have to show my age for the people that still know that song. But in fact, we only thought that AI was good for nothing. So what's the idea? Why was AI... Is that beeping me? No, that's good. Okay. AI was terrible for databases, I thought, because it was unpredictable in its responses, especially for contacts. It invents answers, which is nasty. And so there wasn't a use case. So why bother working with that? But in fact, I learned that I had to improve my prompts, use the right engine, that helps, and get creative, because in the end, I do believe that we are on the brink of a real revolution, and if we don't hop on that horse early, we're gonna be missed out. The next generation of programmers will have that in their fingertips, and if we are not working on AI now, we will be out of business in no time. So, if we have to get creative, we could start somewhere. So why not in contacts? If it's already that boring, what can we do with it? Creating contacts already is a tiresome task. Nobody likes typing in names and dates and addresses and mistyping them. So it's error-prone. And mistakes in your contacts database in the end lead to wrong invoices, and wrong invoices are really crap. And it's not just error-prone, it's still boring. So our first step on how we could improve that was just a little something that we worked on. We wanted to get from a photo to a record, or a text like an email, footer, or whatever. So I've prepared a little demonstration for you. I have a business card of some company in a weird layout, okay? It's not line by line, it's 2 columns. It's really hard to understand if you're not human. So what can we do with it? That's our contacts database, and I have a little movie for you, because I was told to make movies. If anybody is interested in the process afterwards, I have a live demonstration here as well. So what we do is we put in the photo here. Just a sec. Wait. Why did it jump? I wanted to pause. Here we are. We are creating a new contact. We take that photo and pop it in a container field, and FileMaker automatically recognizes the text. And now I can take that text and send it to ChatGPT and ask it to reformat it for me. And what I get back in my answer is a JSON structure that I can now put into fields. And what you see here is that I can pause here, if I press the right button, is that we have still the original text from the business card scan here, and we have all the information already automatically inputted in the correct fields. How we do that is we tell ChatGPT in our prompt what our fields are and what those fields should hold in information. We give it that original text and say format it to be processed in that JSON format. Then I get back my JSON and I just input it in the fields. And that works brilliantly. And as you already have or still have the original text and the record that is going to be created, you can still make some adjustments. Because of course, the telephone number wasn't correctly split. We can easily do that. And then we create the record. Was it? I didn't see that. Luckily, I don't have to invoice them. And now I have the contact of the staff member and the company created and linked together. All my process is done. So that was the first step where we dipped our foot into, can we use artificial intelligence for anything in contacts? And after Chris Moyer's talk in Berlin, I thought, we can do better. This is not going to be it. I wanted to research customers. But why? Everything is fine as long as you have 100 customers that you know personally. You could argue that you don't need a database for those, but we all know, yes, you do. There is a cost to researching customers. How do you research them? You have some student or assistant or secretary or whomever who looks them up on a couple of databases, in their advertisement, write a portfolio for them, and then you need to organize that portfolio somewhere. Or you at least put some keywords to them or whatever. But there is corporate amnesia. So if you don't do that, and you don't have 100 customers, but a couple of thousand, and nobody knows what company name does what, because personnel has changed, somebody new comes in, that's even more costly than not doing your research. And what is the cost of not knowing your customer or your supply chain? It's really, really annoying. So we found a couple of tools, or especially one tool that you all know, ChatGPT, and its limitations are quite obvious. It's great with text. It's not so great with knowledge. And we found Perplexity. I don't know if everybody knows that one, but Perplexity is really nice for generating live web research data. And the important thing for me was that in comparison to ChatGPT, that doesn't give you reliable web links as source proof, Perplexity does. And Perplexity has an API, so we can work with that. So what can or should we achieve in all that? I want to gather information on the goods and services of a company. I want some KPIs of that company, if available. I want to know something about a company structure. I want web links to prove that that information is true and correct. And in the best case, I want contact vectors. I want to know whom to call there, or at least something of importance where to get in touch with those. But of course, there are some ethical decisions to be made. First of all, when we ask an external service for information, we're not only asking information, we're giving information. And that information given can be problematic, but also the use of the answer given can be problematic. What do I mean with that? We have a threefold option of asking for information. We can ask companies, or for information on companies. We can ask information on people in companies, and we can ask information on people. The first thing, asking about companies, I think, is ethically correct and fine because we have a shared interest. They want to buy or sell, I want to buy or sell. It's in our both interest to know each other. People in companies, that's a bit tricky, and it's really depending on the prompt. Are you asking for personal information? Are you asking for strictly business information? So be careful about that. But asking for people, I think, is problematic because when you get information on a person, that information is difficult to be proven, and building a decision path on information about the person that is difficult to be proven can get you into trouble. So I will not touch that point. We all know that it's technically possible, and of course all the same methods apply, but I refrain from putting that into any solution. I will not do that. So let's research a company. We have that company that we created beforehand, and now we switch from the person to the company. We have an AI data field, and we press a button. And now we wait. We wait because all those chat agents, they are not fooling us by typing those words together, but they are calculating the possibility that one word comes after the other when they reach that word. So that chat process for a longer text takes a longer time to pop up here. And here's the text. Let's have a look at that. Is that readable for you, or is it too small? Okay. So what do we have here? We have a list of offers and products, services. We have business KPIs, annual revenue, number of employees, number of locations in Austria, blah, blah, blah. All on your fingertip. Now, at the bottom, we have the web links. And those web links, because they come in a neat format, are already in our web link collection because we put them there. And you can call them up, and of course you have your cookie questions, and there you have the locations, and what they do, and all their services, etc. And that was work that would have probably taken a person at least a quarter of an hour in, how long was it? 20 seconds? I thought that was quite Neat. So, what was the prompt to do that? We, of course, first have to tell it what the role of the AI model should be. Then we put together a list of information that identifies the company as strictly as possible, because we don't want any mix-ups. We want the KPIs as available. Business structure, age, ownership, customer structure, whatever. We want the citation of the web links. And then I tell it to put another divider in that list of text, where we not only get the web links in that JSON, but, and that is very important, I tell it to, by itself, estimate how correct its answer or how trustworthy its own answer would be. And I found that everything below a value of 6, or already with a value of 6, so below a value of 7, I don't touch that anymore. It's in the text, but it will not be used for semantic searches later. There's just no point. There's too little information. It's not secure enough in my belief. But this security level estimate works really fine with Perplexity. So now, of course, once we've researched a company, we can also research an employee. We just do the same thing. We are now on the company record. We're switching back to the employee record. The AI data is empty. We press the research button. Now the AI model uses a different prompt for the employee, and we wait for the data.
While we are waiting, does it already build on the first
No.
prompt?
No, totally separate. Because it wouldn't have to be that you're researching one after the other. They could be at totally different times. So again, we have the person of Manuela Pittner here, her current role, her contact information as it was on the business card, confirmed here, although we didn't send it over. Sources for the links. Again, the links are stored in the link collection database. Anyway, and now we can see that when we click into her department, we really find her. Huh, there she is. So we have now, yes?
It's interesting to me that prompt engineering is sort of like baking. Small degrees of differences in the prompt can lead to wide variation in results. And so when you find a good one, you hang on to it. And so I'm curious, as you sort of amass a recipe book of good prompts, perhaps some with slight deviations, how are you sort of keeping them and annotating them like this is for this purpose? And have you come up with a...
I will come to that. it's part of the presentation, or at least the thoughts about it. That's correct. It's difficult to find the correct prompt, and we need to safeguard for future updates without replacing the full database. So here I want to act as a marketing research professional. Name, company, postcode, that's all publicly available information. And then again, use the internet as your source, give web links as citations, blah, blah, blah. That's all the same. And if there is a picture, I would like to have it as a link, because then I can automatically download it, put it into a container field. Very few of the contacts that I've researched have a publicly available picture that is coming through that. But I thought it could be a nice touch. But anyway, what are the next steps here? Because now that we've amassed that information, and of course there is a cost to that, because those APIs are not for free, what can we do with that? So in the process of getting that perplexity information into that text field, I have written a separate JetGPT prompt. That's why we had JetGPT in the beginning, saying if the security level of that information is higher than 6, take that text and transform it into a optimized text of 300 words, optimized for semantic searches. Because that tabular information and the semantic search information, at least in my belief, are two different things. So nowadays, of course, we do search for qualities, names, addresses, attributes, list memberships, or whatever. But in the future, there should have been now. In the future, it should look like this. For example, somebody describes his problem, as written here. I need help organizing my company. Knowledge about our customer gets lost when somebody leaves the company. Who could help writing such a tool? And amazingly enough, when we now use this exact text in our semantic search, look what comes up. A couple of FileMaker developers. I thought that was quite amazing. I just sampled a small group of. It's not a complete list of all of you. So now that we have established a method of working and how to get through that and how to use it, what could be the challenges? In the research department, it could happen that the API changes and the provider change. So what we do is we put our API call text into text fields, because we can update text fields much easier than update script structure. And as we have a vertical solution, it's hard to switch out all the modules just because of a provider change. In those records, we have the code specified by the function, not by the JetGPT call, but there is a function called research company or research person in company. And how we do that in there, in that text that is evaluated, then builds the REST API, etc. that can be exchanged. That also means that in those texts for the execution, we do have a couple of parameters hard-coded in there. Because if you don't hard-code them, they are again in your scripts and you can't switch them out easily. I've held a talk a couple of years ago about custom functions are dead, long live the custom function. The method of using texts for custom functions are specified there. You find it online. Might be helpful. Then, of course, we can have a problem with the embedding. Because what happens if the model is out of date? When the model is out of date because we find that another one is better, or because it's no longer available, or there are problems with it, security issues, whatever, we don't know yet what could happen. What will the impact on the embedded vectors be? So we need, for the embedding solution, for the embedding script step, we need the model in a parameter that is readable from our text fields. Don't hard-code it there. The provider should always be set to custom in the script step, because otherwise, when FileMaker switches out the provider, all that might break down. And noting the embedding model on the record where you have the embedding made, because otherwise you will not know in 10 years' time, and maybe all of your embeddings are gone. And then, of course, in updating a solution, what is the strategy and what's the customer communication with that? Because, of course, for our test records of 200 companies, that's peanuts. But if they have, for example, a printing house having their 5,000, 50,000, 500,000 companies researched in there, that can mean real money. So we need an update strategy for the feature availability, because once you've inputted a feature like any of those into a solution, it will be missed when it's not working anymore. Nobody misses it now, but keep in mind that you need to keep that up once you input it there. Then, of course, there is the cost for embedding and maybe re-embedding. And I would urge any of you to have that very transparent with your customers before you sell a feature like that, any of those. Because we don't know where the travel's going. And my half hour is nearly over, so let the Q&A begin. Questions?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. We have been using Perplexity for quite a while, and two things. Now with Anthropic and ChatGPT and Gemini, you can use exactly the same feature. I mean, you can have these agents that look through the internet, and what we found out that at the end you can have a model that you mix all together, and is much more efficient, because sometimes, I mean, Perplexity gives a very strong information, but is not always the good one. And if you use Gemini, that use the Google models of search, it gives you another kind of information. So what we did is to mix, to have, I mean, connection to all of them, and to mix. Of course, it's much more expensive, it's much more, let's say, complicated if you want, but it gives you much more better results. In our case, it's only for testing. We didn't put on production, let's say, but in testing is really the difference between any agent, because those are agents that look for internet, and now there are, I think at least I know 3 or 4 companies that have those agents that you can put your own LLM and on top those agents and build your own capacities if you don't want to use those internet providers. I mean, as you say, it's just the beginning, because it's running so fast that probably next year you will have this on a box and will not have to do it anything.
Yes, you're totally correct. Mixing those different forces would be the optimal solution. But I need to keep in mind my customer, and it's already a stretch to ask of my customer to have one ChatGPT API key and one Perplexity key. And they need to register 5 different services that are maybe not there in 5 years or in 2 years. So we try to keep it as close together as possible. And if those two are giving you good enough information on a business level, or other two, that will be fine for me. But I think more than 3 is possibly not manageable for our customers at least.
And only one last thing, because it's not for you, because I think that everybody does the same. Anytime when you put AI and they say it's not, they have problems because it's not accurate on, you cannot trust. This is Gen AI, because AI, if you put a machine learning model, is extremely secure that the result is good. It's Gen AI, and I think for most of us, we have always to try to separate what is Gen AI, that a machine learning model that is very accurate, the result is extremely secure, that is the right one. This is only because most of the time, myself, I do the same. But in my mind, I have to always try to say that this, we have to differentiate Gen AI, the really AI.
Yep. Thank you.
I have a crazy question. So when you're doing it, have you ever tried to actually sort of remove completely the query, the index searching in FileMaker, and then replacing all your solution for contact by just using AI to do queries across the whole system?
No, not yet.
Okay. Has anyone tried that? Because the biggest problem with the contact is basically like you have spelling errors and all of that. And so with your systems, you could completely replace the index search in FileMaker and just use AI to do your searches for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We've tried most of what you're showing and also a little bit more. And of course, depending on the country and the environment you're working within, in Denmark, we have databases for everything that are publicly available and free. And we can even let the OpenAI or whatever AI we're using ask these databases. So we ask them usually to go out, check everything as you did here on the internet. And then we said, compare it to this CVR, which is the company registration database in Denmark, to this, which is about all properties in Denmark, and to this, and make sure the data is correct. So first we ask it to go out, and then we ask to check it up against hard data to eradicate the worst errors.
Very good.
So I would call it qualified AI or something like that.
Nice wording. We don't have that data transparency in Austria. Why I couldn't build that in, but it's nice to have. Sure.
Given the velocity of change with how fast these new models come out and obsolete their predecessors, are you recommending that people run their own LLMs on their own hardware so that they control when they upgrade to the next model as opposed to have it imposed upon them?
Yes, I think that's the way to go. And we are just now researching hosting that on the machines of the clients, but it always depends on the workload that is generated there. If they need separate machines for that, if they can do it on the FileMaker server, we have no experience at all in that field, but the possibility looks really promising.
I have a question. I'm here. Yeah. Do you save the prompt, and do you think that would be able to? That would be something you can use in the future to kind of go back and see. So where did that bring me with that prompt, or also as a base of how did I get to this result, and also how do you see that being used from if you switch from one to another product, like from Perplexity to ChatGPT or a third?
Thank you. The idea is that the prompts that I've shown you are just the default ones that we give our customers, but they can generate their own prompts. And they can improve for their own needs, whatever. And yes, the prompts are definitely depending on the machine that you're using with, and you need to experiment.
Just elaborate. I meant, do you see any benefit in saving your prompts while when you get it down and integrate it in the system to use it for a future, qualification of data? That's what I mean.
Well, the prompts are saved in the settings of the file. I'm at the moment not saving the prompt on the record again that generated that information, because however that information got there, I thought the model for the embedding is far more important afterwards, because in semantic search you need to match the models. But it's an idea. I really don't know. Thank you.
I have two questions. One for you. You said it was advertised as the most boring table, so I have the most boring questions relative to your most boring example, which was about scanning your business card.
Yes.
You're using live text. I get live text, I guess, which
Yes.
is already some AI built in macOS, Apple operating systems. And I wanted to ask if you had found, any of you had found something similar, as capable as Go Live's live text, because I think is genius. I don't find any comparable analysis tool out there, and this is limited to the Mac. Or you have found many.
In Hugging Face, you have more than 1,300,000 models of LLMs specific for any task. If you go to a specific task that I want images for scanning, I give you all the embeddings. You have all the model specifically for cards, not for other kind of let's say, a scanner, only for cards. You have specific models, very, very good, that are, cheap, they are free. And you can put on Hugging Face for $0.02 dollars an hour for the models. And they're really, now they have so many models already done, trained for tasks that are extremely good. You don't have, if you go, but in this case, you have to use OBN or Hugging Face, or you have to put on your own machine, whatever you want.
But honestly, if we have a FileMaker script step that does a job perfectly, why make our life more difficult?
No, because you have to
The
use
FileMaker
Mac
script
hardware.
step costs me nothing.
No, but you have to use Apple hardware, which is not the case
No,
everywhere.
no.
For
no,
Go
no.
Live text.
There is another one that is cross-platform. That's not just Mac. Wait a sec. No. That would be cheating. We can discuss that afterwards. But
Okay, and I had
there
a
is-
second question for my neighbor.
Yeah.
Because now, bringing all this data and metadata for semantic search and so on implies storing a lot of texting, actually. And it makes it quite heavy on the... FileMaker stores everything as UTF-16 and so on. Is there a plan to have a different storage for all these utility fields within the FileMaker database?
Well, the embedding is really small, in fact, because you use a container field and not a text field. And the researched text I have in a separate table, which is as a mirror table to the contacts. So it's separated and only called when you have opened that pop-up. So yes, it is heavy, but you can mitigate that problem, I guess.